Hello, I'm Mike Gambardella, and welcome into the newest episode of Pat's Latest. Before we get started, make sure to go down and subscribe to our channel. Get into the comments afterwards and let us know what you think the next moves the Patriots should make and prioritize some potentially big names, but especially in free agency and the draft. And make sure you go back and check out our older episodes. Today, we talk about potentially one of the most dynamic offensive weapons in the draft. A couple of offensive lineman signings for the Patriots, a potential new jersey, and if there's going to be a new starting running back in the backfield for New England. We start with the NFL draft and looking at who's coming on board for the hype train for Tet McMillan. That's the long and the short of it. We've been talking about this guy for a while, and as we actually started this channel, I was talking about Tet McMillan as a shoo-in for number 4, assuming that, quarterbacks were not really going to go towards the top of this draft. Abdul Carter is coming off, Travis Hunter is coming off, and you're not going to trade back. I was okay with taking Tet McMillan at number 4. Now, in the past 3 weeks, things have kind of shifted a little bit, and we've seen him slide back potentially more to that 15 range. And talking about the Patriots, at number 4, probably made more sense to trade back. We are starting to see that narrative shift again. And if you watch the tape, if you look at the measurables, everything that Tet McMillan has been able to do at Arizona, you see just an absolute weapon and what he could be like if he pairs with Drake May. Now, the report coming out is that there is serious interest from both the Jaguars and the Patriots front office heading into the combine. This will be extremely important because he will need to test well. We'll need to see the speed because there are questions about his ability to create separation, especially at the line of scrimmage, and pull away from people coming out of those breaks. The other reports, and I take these with a very large grain of salt, is that there are some NFL scouts who believe that McMillan is in the same tier as Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Nabers from last year. I think that's probably a bit of a stretch, but not that far off. Another NFL scout very high on McMillan called him a yard after catch beast and a hybrid of A.J. Green and Mike Evans. Again, these are secondary reports. These are some big time names, and I think if you could even get close to that, you'd be happy with it. But the fact that you're starting to hear some of these things means this could actually be a real possibility, especially if the Patriots get to a point where the quarterbacks really start to slip back, and even the safety valve at 4 of Mason Graham is gone by that point, and you really decide that Will Campbell is not going to be the option at 4, especially if they address more of the offensive line signings in free agency. Get used to hearing the name Tet McMillan. Was big on him early, will continue to be, and really lines up for what's going to happen at the combine and the measurables that he's able to put in. For the Patriots, actually signing 2 players on Thursday, actually picking up 2 starting offensive linemen. Now, don't get too excited because these are their own starting linemen from a line that was much maligned a season ago. Patriots have exclusive rights free agent deals with center Ben Brown, who came in off the Raiders practice squad and filled in quite admirably for David Andrews, and have also signed tackle Demontre Jacobs. Both contracts have been filed with the NFL. They are both 1-year deals. Brown getting about $1.3 million, while Jacobs just under it, $960,000. These are cheap options to actually fill out the offensive line for right now. Replacement level talents, and could be good depth signings and pieces for the Patriots. But if there's any situation where these guys are in the conversation for your starting spots, we're going to have a strong conversation with this team. They know that this is not where they want to go, but good options, people who know the team, come in, set the tone, and be some good bodies for Doug Marrone to start to build with, but expect some much bigger names and major signings coming out for the offensive line here as well. Potentially some other big news coming out in the Patriots. Obviously, I think whether we're biased or not, we can say the Patriots have the best, or if not one of the best, throwback uniforms in all of sport, really, with the Pat Patriot red jerseys. There was some buzz around what the fans want, and could we see those Curtis Martin era, Terry Glenn, Ty Law, Drew Bledsoe, Royal Blue Patriots jerseys make a comeback? Drake May on Chris Long's podcast the other day talking about what they were doing and talking about the throwbacks and obviously giving the red jerseys the love that they deserve. His quote was, I think, maybe coming out with maybe it's kind of the fans want to see some blue throwbacks. He said, going on to say, those would be sweet. It sounded like he kind of backtracked a little bit and maybe he let something slip. Don't know if he's being a little bit coy. Again, mentioned earlier in another shout out to the University of North Carolina Sports Information and Media Relations Department, who've done a great job with Drake May and has him very polished, and he does really well in all of these interviews. So wouldn't be surprised if he's playing in a little bit here. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments if you'd like to see those Royal Blues make a return. It would be, quite some time now, almost 25 years since we've seen those jerseys out on the field, and did make a Super Bowl appearance in those jerseys as well. So I think eventually we will see them make their debut at some point, potentially seeing them as early as 2025. Finally, today we will look at Rhamondre Stevenson, the much maligned running back for the Patriots who had some severe fumbling issues and did not have the type of season that you want to see from a guy that you gave a major contract to before the 2024 season that at the time was setting him up to potentially become the Patriots' all-time leading rusher. That is far from where we see him at this time. Again, he did have a very tough season, but we talk about the line's issues and, what Drake May had to do scrambling all the time. I think what gets missed is the impact that the line has on your rushing ability. The San Francisco 49ers, can churn out Jordan Masons and Elijah Mitchells and Isaac Guerendos and Patrick Taylors behind Christian McCaffrey because they have quite the system in front of it, and they continue to plug in guys in place of injuries, even on the offensive line, where maybe the pieces are greater, the sum is greater than the pieces that make up that whole. And that's not what the Patriots had whatsoever. So I think, again, for me, giving him a little bit of a pass there. Obviously, the fumbles are one thing, but the lack of production is also correlated to a very tough offensive system that never really got off the ground. Then when Drake May finally did get in there, it's tough to run the ball. You knew you could stack the box. You wanted to test Drake May, and he kind of fell by the wayside, right? Antonio Gibson finally getting that start at the end of the season, whether he started or not, and Stevens seeing his work cut back. Now there are questions of, do the Patriots decide to move on from Stevenson and even draft a replacement in this NFL draft, which actually is quite deep at the running back position and might not be a bad thing for the Patriots to look at either. I truly think Rhamondre Stevenson will be on this roster when the season starts. I think it's a bounce back opportunity for him, especially when you start putting the beef up front who are able to open up some holes, and Drake May taking that step for year two and having better receiving options out there. Things and sledding gets much easier for Rhamondre Stevenson. I do think competition is coming in for him as well. It's going to be how he responds to that now. Should the Patriots get to the 4th, 5th, 6th round and there's still one of these big name backs out there, there's going to be probably 10 that go in the first 3 rounds. Should one slip, and you're still talking about, Caleb Johnson, I think, is probably to 2nd, 3rd round at that point. Neal from Kansas as well. But there's even more guys that are going to be out there that are going to acquit themselves well at the combine, and you're going to see 15 running backs kind of come out before that 5th round. Don't be surprised if the Patriots do take a flyer on one, because behind Stevenson and Antonio Gibson, who suffer free agency here as well, the Patriots do need to build out that backfield, and potentially, can Stevenson bounce back, could create a bit of a two-headed monster for the Patriots, and see if they could actually go back now with Josh McDaniels in the fold, if they go back to using Stevenson as more of that power back that we saw with LeGarrette Blount at times, and have that really, Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, that starter, that smash mouth, and then bring in more of that receiving type running back with Kevin Falk, James White, Danny Woodhead, kept churning them out left and right. But if it becomes more of that two-back system, don't be surprised to see that as well. And perhaps that actually ends up being the better system for Rhamondre Stevenson to take some pressure off of him, that he's not constantly banging in there. There is a better rotation and an understanding of the roles for this team. Again, a lot of things will and can change based upon what we see in free agency and the things that are brought in or the draft as well, and seeing what Josh McDaniels decides to install in now his third go around with the Patriots, and definitely having the most mobile quarterback that he's ever had. Again, get in the comments and let us know what you think about the Patriots backfield, the options for free agency, and the options in the draft. Be sure to check out our other episodes and give us that subscribe. We'll see you back here on the next episode of Pat's Latest. Fight on, Foxborough.